women and men in the senior roles to get onto these kind of initiatives to help bridge the gap and bring the number up. There are corporates who have their internal diversity and inclusion goals, but there is the partnership is very essential to make that happen, right? Initiatives like SheTek that focus on helping graduates, women returning to workforce or transitioning into technology field, and we want to connect them to the corporates and provide the necessary training and coaching through mentorship and introduce them to these corporates to find internship and apprenticeship positions. As you all know, technology is not an option anymore, right? Especially in the current challenging times, every job needs some computer skills. So it is critical for everyone to start thinking out of the box to see how you can acquire some technology skills. Especially, I'm a strong believer in tech. If in the technology world, everything can be executed remotely. So which is very, very friendly for women who have a lot of other responsibilities, and you can execute these jobs remotely. So initiatives like SheTek and many other women initiatives have a lot of respect for other initiatives as well. Um, Take advantage of those initiatives. Try to see what options are available for you. Think out of the box to find these and upgrade your skills to find these positions. Um, so what we are doing at SheTek is we are actually creating a very strong community that with entrepreneurs, corporates, the business leaders, also individuals, and women empowerment initiative organizations, universities, and we are all bringing all of them together onto this platform to for each other to share stories, to find mentors, and also to find job opportunities. We are also running many webinars. One of our outlet series that Meg is running, they're all focused on bringing in successful women onto the platform, so that they can share their stories, inspire others, and also get some insight into what opportunities women can have and how did they come across any hurdles in their life. So these are very interesting outlet series. Apart from that, this is the conference we are doing. So the first session of the conference was focused on continued education, which was very successful. And we are fortunate to have a group of passionate and powerful women on our SheTek advisory board. And in today's session, we have Sydney, who is also on our advisory board, participating on the panel. So my sincere thanks to each and every one of our advisory board, and also to the SheTek team in PamTen, Elaine, Meg, and Joanne, who will be interacting with you throughout this session. And without their help and support, I don't think this would have been possible. I also thank our panelists today, Sydney, Jessica, Prasad, for sharing their knowledge in cybersecurity space, and to John for moderating the session. This session particularly focuses on career opportunities in cybersecurity. There are many ways to bring into cybersecurity career, and with the constantly increasing threat of cyber crime and workplace demand for cybersecurity skills is greater than ever. So a shortage in trained cybersecurity experts is expected to leave at least 1.8 million jobs unfilled by 2022. And this field is growing at 3 times the rate of other information technology careers. So I hope you all enjoy this session and rest of the day. And thanks again to all of you. So now I pass it on to Meg Virag, our SheTek Community Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I'd love to take everybody through here right now is just a short little bit of housekeeping. Right now, today's agenda is, we just had our welcome from Chaya. Now we're doing our housekeeping, so you are here. Next, we're going to do some learning about each other, some icebreaker questions. We're going to then launch into our panel, so that'll be everything that you need to know about a cybersecurity career. Then we'll take a 15-minute break. Then we're going to run some breakout sessions. We'll come back to the main room to regroup and to share. And then we'll have some virtual networking sessions after that. Now, right now, as I mentioned, everybody is muted, and I'm going to turn off everybody's videos if you do pop on the video, so that way then we can be sure to focus on the panelists and the different folks that are engaging with our panel today, and then we'll be able to turn them on when we're in our breakout sessions and in the virtual networking. Your host today, there's me, there's Meg Vierig. I'm the program coordinator and community manager over at SheTek. I'm hosting this event today, so you'll see me pop in and out a few times on the camera, walking you through the different events. And then we're also helped by Joanne Tartaglino, who is the executive assistant at PamTen, and as I call her, the one who knows. If there's ever anything that I have a question about, Joanne is my first stop. She is by far the best assistant and helper and partner and teamwork that I could possibly have in this situation. So Joanne has been a huge help. If there's anything that you need during this conference, if you want to reach out, you have a question, you want to ask something privately, you want to switch breakout sessions, send a message to either me and Joanne and we'll get you sorted out right. Now, as I mentioned, I might have mentioned this at the top, but the session is going to be recorded, and we'll be sure to get the link up on YouTube once it's been broken up into some chunks. That way, then you'll be able to follow up with this, watch it again, watch it on demand, show it to your boss, whatever you want to do. It will make it available, and we'll send it to everybody that registered as well. As I mentioned, we're all muted, and we're going to have all of our cameras off just to make sure that the focus is on the panel. Then we'll switch them on during the breakouts. You can use the chat function in Zoom to communicate with either everyone, or you can send in questions because we'll have a Q&A period after the panel. You can use that box to send questions either to myself or to Joanne directly, or you could even send it out to everyone. That is an option. The chat box is a great place to put in the different ideas that you've got, or maybe a thought that you want to share, or any requests, any problems. Just let us know. Pop it in there. We'll get in touch with you. Oops. Now, our breakout sessions today will be continue the conversation, everything that you need to know about a cybersecurity career. That's your chance to talk back with our panelists, maybe share some of your thoughts, or maybe you have additional questions that you'd like to ask in a more smaller setting. That continue the conversation breakout session is going to be your opportunity to get your voice heard. Our next breakout session is called Embrace Your Feminine Traits to Elevate Cybersecurity with author Fabian Jacquette. Fabian is fabulous. She's a great person to listen to. I got to take a sneak peek at her presentation yesterday, and it's really fascinating the different elements that you can use within your own head, your own natural skill set, and why that is so valuable to a cybersecurity career. Finally, our third breakout session is Yoga to Stretch Your Body and Mind with Linda Colon. If you ever learned anything about multiple intelligences or anything like that, you know that sometimes doing some physical activity can stimulate your mind and put it into a more open setting for learning. Maybe if that appeals to you, you might want to choose that breakout session. If you haven't already selected your breakout session, I sent out a couple emails asking people to let me know what they wanted to choose, but if those missed you or maybe they went to your spam, you can send it to either Meg or Joanne directly, and then we'll be able to get you put into that room. So let's see here. Make sure that I've got everything going on. Perfect. All right, great. So I'm going to head into our icebreaker questions now. So this will be our chance to get to know each other a little bit. I'm going to start a poll on my side as the host. You'll see it pop up on your screen. There's 3 questions there. They're 3 multiple choice questions. Just put in your response to them. They are anonymous because nobody else will be able to see what you choose. So just be open and honest. All right, launching the poll now. So if you can take a look at your screen, you can see that I have 3 questions up on there so that way we can learn about each other and find out more about you. So right now I've got, what's your experience level with cybersecurity? I'm a student studying cybersecurity. I'm a student not currently studying cybersecurity. I currently work in cybersecurity. I'm interested in a cybersecurity career, or I'm curious about cybersecurity in general. After that, question 2, why does a cybersecurity career appeal to you? We have interesting work, attractive salaries, job availability, and my favorite response is something else, because that gives me the opportunity to reach out to you via email after the conference is completed to find out what that something else is. Finally, we have a multiple choice option for question 3. What would help you most with a cybersecurity career? Free learning resources, a supportive community, mentorship options, information from colleges and universities about available cybersecurity resources, or again, something else. That way then I can reach out to you and find out what's going to help you the most so we can make our community work for you. All right, I'm going to give this about another minute or so for everybody to respond. I do see quite a few responses rolling in, so that's great. Thanks everybody for participating. You guys don't get to see it because you're not the host, but as you guys are voting, I get to watch the little bars move back and forth. So I get to see what's really appealing to people. All right, about 30 more seconds to respond here. This is great. All right, get your votes in. All right, it looks like everybody, oh, I still see a couple of people sneaking in. All right, I'll extend it for another few seconds. All right, great. Looks like it's slowed down, so I'm going to end it. I'm going to share the results here. So it looks like right now what our demographics are breaking down into is we have one person that's a student not currently studying cybersecurity. We have 6 different individuals that currently work in cybersecurity. That's great. Really interesting. I'd love to hear more about that. 13 people interested in a cybersecurity career. That's fantastic. We definitely need more people working in cybersecurity. And 15 are curious about cybersecurity in general. That's where I started out with this. So that's definitely important. Why does a cybersecurity career appeal to you? Overwhelmingly, interesting work is in the lead. That makes complete sense to me because it's so important that we be able to find our work interesting, and cybersecurity certainly offers a lot that you can dig into that's new and different, maybe even different every day a little bit. We also have one person who said attractive salaries. We have 5 people for job availability and 4 people I get to email to find out what the something else is, which is exciting. Now, what would help you most with your cybersecurity career? We have 24 out of 35 said free learning resources, and also 24 out of 35 said mentorship options. I know the SheTek community can help you out with that. 13 other folks said a supportive community. 6 folks said information from colleges and universities, and 3 people said something else. So I'll reach out to those people as well later on. This is very interesting because I love to see what kinds of people come to our virtual conference. All right, great. I'm going to stop that right here. Now, I just had a quick note here from Chaya. Chaya, did you want to, I can turn your camera on because Chaya wanted to just say another thing real quick. She just sent me a quick little message. Here she is.
Hey, thanks, Meg. I just I thought I'll do this before the breakout, but I wanted to say this. I didn't want to interrupt later. I really want to thank Linda Collin for giving us that yoga session for the breakout room. And then also want to thank Fabian. I'm really looking forward to Fabian's session as well because it's so innovative and different. So Fabian, thanks again for making time to come and share your knowledge with us. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you, Shaya.
All right, great. I'm back. All right. So I just want to take a moment to introduce you to our moderators and to our panelists today because we have some really fantastic folks that are going to be able to lead us through our panel and have a lot to share with us. We have some great folks on this panel. I'm excited to hear from them. And if your host is excited, then you know that everybody's going to be excited. So John here, John is actually one of PamTen's own. John is the Solutions Vice President at PamTen, which is the SheTek technology partner, and they're one of our sponsors here at the virtual conference today. John provides strategic technology services and heads the PamTen cybersecurity practice. Over the past 25 plus years, John's clients have included Fortune 1000 firms, NGOs, and trade associations in the United States and in Europe. John is a certified project management professional and is also certified in risk and information systems controls. He is an active member of various professional groups, including PMI, the Project Management Institute, and ISACA, which is the Information Systems Audit and Control Association. Hi, John. Thank you so much for being with us today. John, you're on mute. Let me unmute you. Maybe, oh, did you get it?
Yep, I'm good. Thank you, Meg.
Perfect, of course.
Good afternoon and good evening, folks. It seems like not a week goes by without hearing about a major cybersecurity attack making the headlines. And those are just the reports that we hear about, not the ones that go unreported. To combat the increasing threat of a cyber attack, many organizations are ramping up their security teams. And as Chaya mentioned earlier, there's a tremendous opportunity out there for cybersecurity professionals. And I'd just like to share a couple of numbers. There was a workforce study report produced last year from an organization named the Information Security Certification Consortium, also known as ISC Square, a leading industry organization. And it was estimated that there's over 4 million cybersecurity positions that are unfilled. And that number represents a 26% increase over a similar report that was published in 2018. And what was interesting is that 51% of those respondents said that their organizations were at moderate or extreme risk due to the shortage of cybersecurity staff. So to combat this, all these organizations have launched major initiatives to ramp up their teams. And I'd like to share a heat map with you. Meg, can you give me presentation rights?
It does seem, oh, there it goes. It's working.
So hopefully everyone can see this. So this is a very interesting website. And for folks that are interested in cybersecurity, you may want to just jot this URL down. It's cyberseek.org. And this is a heat map of all the opportunities that exist in cybersecurity at a state level and a metro level. So you can drill down into individual states or regions. And as you can see, there's over 500,000 open positions. And the demand is very, very low. So what we've done today is we've assembled this team of cybersecurity experts to discuss some of the opportunities that are available and also provide you with some direction and guidance of what you can do to prepare for a career in cybersecurity. So what I'd like to do now is let our panelists introduce themselves and share a little bit about what their cybersecurity journey has been. Sydney, would you like to begin?
Great, thank you. And it's so nice to be here with you all today. My name is Sydney Klein. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at Bristol Meyers Squibb, and I've been in this industry for over 20 years. My journey to it was a very happy accident. I entered into the workforce straight out of college, was enrolled in a post-college program where you accepted a job, and then closer to the start date, you found out what you'd actually be doing. So I showed up at work thinking I would be a Java developer. On my very first day, I was taken out of training by my new manager to let me know that that particular division was shutting down, but there were 5,000 other jobs to be had in the company, and I could certainly find my way into another opportunity. I happened to know somebody in the very new field of information security. I was in financial services, and it began really just a love of this industry. I saw on the panel that many of you said that you're interested in a career here because it sounds very interesting. It's dynamic. No 2 days are alike in this field. It's full of highs. There are some lows, but it is beyond being a terribly interesting career. It's one that has just about the best community I could ever hope for. I think because of what we do, because of how demanding it is, because of how ever-changing it is, I find that cybersecurity professionals are very happy to lend a hand and offer to network with you. So look forward to spending some time with you all today. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Sydney. Jessica?
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. So thank you all for having me here, and it's wonderful to see all of you here today. I would say within the work that I do right now, I am CEO of PurePoint International. We focus on supporting C-level leaders with helping them to protect the money that they make and help them to better protect the data that they're entrusted to safeguard from their clients. And my journey in cybersecurity really started for me when I was really young. When I was a kid, I always knew that this was something I wanted to do. Now, of course, it wasn't called cybersecurity back then, but what I knew was that security for me was a calling, and I knew that I wanted to work in this field, but also bring and connect it to technology. And so that is something that I focused on doing within my career. And so the work that I've been doing specifically, though, over the last 6 years within my current role has really been about supporting organizations and companies where they are presently. I never in my life thought that I would own a company. It was never something that was a goal or for anything that I thought that I could do or even wanted to do. But it's amazing how your journey just continues to unravel or unfold in front of you. And for me, it's allowed me to do the work that I truly love in the world, but also work with incredible teams, my own, of course, but also working with teams in insurance companies, accounting companies, advertising companies, not just in the United States, but also around the world. And I find that with cybersecurity being so dynamic, I'm continuing to with each challenge that we have, each one is just continues to be a wonderful learning experience, and it allows for not only my team to grow, but also for me to grow as well.
Great, thank you. Prasad.
Thanks, John. My name is Prasad Tenjerla, and I'm the co-founder of PamTen. When everybody is talking about the journey, it is so interesting that even I started my journey as a faculty. I used to teach those COBOL programming. That was back in 90s. And since then, overall, I do have about 18 years of experience working in the IT industry, whether it is financial, insurance, telecom, manufacturing, and then all those sectors. I know those were the days we were all talking about transferring the files from this one entity to the other entity. There used to be this so-called FTP, and it used to be a free protocol, it used to go. But then later on, when they introduced SFTP, that is when the realization came, okay, this is something which is critical. So after working for about 18 years as a typical consultant, and then we found a company, thanks to Chaya. So we both, when we have started off PamTen, we have been doing a lot of mentoring, counseling, and then we were able to increase our workforce mainly with this confidence with our clients, and then having experience of this IT industry. Security has been in our so-called DNA from the beginning, because we used to build these websites from 2002. So websites used to get hacked, and they used to get whatever vulnerability they used to call. So since then our career began, and then over the time now it got formulated as a cybersecurity, wherein we have been training, motivating, inspiring a lot of unemployed and then freshers, and then whoever has been doing their IT stuff also. So fortunate to our employees, workforce, who are all very talented, and then we are all eager to counsel anybody who wants to get into this industry, because this is the best time, because there are a lot of opportunities.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Prasad. Thank you, everyone. Sydney and Jessica, what would you say were the greatest challenges that you faced as a woman early in your career?
So I'll start. I'll share that. I would say mine was early on when I was in college. Like I mentioned before, I was really passionate about the work I wanted to do. When I was younger, my parents put me into engineering camps, and which was wonderful for me. They're different from the camps that exist today, but it was wonderful to get exposure to technology and what I was passionate about. Mm-hmm. And I went into undergrad as a double major in law and security, as well as computer science. And I remember I walked into my first computer science class, and I saw there wasn't anyone there that looked like me. I don't recall seeing any women, and the few people of color that I did see were Asian men. Mm. And I really, at that point, felt like maybe I didn't belong. And I started to struggle, and so I started to go to tutoring. And when I was going to tutoring, the guy that was tutoring me just basically said, this is all pretty basic. So if you don't understand this, then maybe this isn't for you. And at that moment, he just I realized my greatest fear with him saying that. And not only did I leave that day kind of thinking, oh my gosh, this vision that I had for my life is, and for the passion and the career that I wanted to have was kind of starting to ooze away. I felt that maybe I needed to drop the class. And in the end, it was a couple of years ago, actually, where I went back and I looked at my college transcript. And the way that I recall it was that I actually did drop the class, but I actually got a B in the course. But because of what transpired, I actually didn't believe that I could do it. So I did end up dropping the major. And so one of the biggest challenges that I had initially was just the process that I had to go through to believe in myself enough that after having that experience and then going through and having some initial work experience of telling myself, no, I can do this, and really focusing on maturing and building my cybersecurity career.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, Jessica, I think your story is so similar to so many of us in this field. We have experiences where early on in my career, when I walked into a room representing the cybersecurity information security function, I was the only woman in the room for years and years and years. I was on leadership teams where I was the only woman on the team. And I remember a couple of things that left me a little bit shaken. One was just, I think, a bias from people, an assumption that I wasn't technical. Now, I have a degree in integrated science and technology. I was hired to be a Java developer, but because I didn't spend my days and nights coding, because I didn't have some of the roles that people would have anticipated I had, there was an assumption. And I think that this assumption, I started off very much knowing that they were wrong, but then over time you hear it more and more and more, and it starts to become this imposter syndrome that we hear about, that I had to constantly remind myself that no, I was doing the job, I knew how to do it. I think that one of the things that helped me was having a group of people that I could turn to, confidants, mentors, sponsors, who could help remind me when I was having those moments of doubts, who I could discuss with the bias or microaggression that I experienced in a meeting, and I could figure out how to respond to those. It does take thick skin. I feel that that those days are not as frequent now, certainly, as they were long ago, but it took a lot of perseverance to get through them.
Okay. And just to follow up, Jessica, as a woman of color, would you say you faced any unique challenges?
I would say that continuing to decide to go into cybersecurity did continue to be a challenge. When I started to attend even industry association meetings, I would walk in and I wouldn't see people or particularly women of color. But I didn't see many people of color. And again, I kind of started to feel and kind of revert back to this college experience that I had, where I didn't necessarily see a lot of people that looked like me. There weren't a lot of women. And the people of color there were Asian men. And I would go in and I would just start to develop conversations with people. And the looks that I would get from people almost seemed as if they didn't think that I belonged. As I was starting my company and I said that I was CEO of a company, it was kind of hard to believe maybe that I was leading and doing work in this area. I would literally be middle of conversations with people, and people would turn around and walk away from me. And so it was really hard because I didn't have a community, really. I mean, there were people that I knew that I can go to talk about challenges about being a woman. But as you know, if you're having a career in cybersecurity, what you also need are mentors. You need people that are actually doing the work with you, or that understand the competency of what it is you're doing, like actual work. And so it was a great challenge, and with also not seeing representation, just not seeing other people doing this was really hard. And so I think what I had to learn was that I needed to create my own table, that I needed to seek out people that would be willing to develop and have a relationship with me, and people that wanted to see me succeed, people that were willing to help me along the way. And that's part of what I started to do. And it's actually only been the past couple of years where I actually started to go back into industry events, because they were really just such souring experiences for me that the idea of going to an industry event was actually quite challenging. So I would say, yeah, there are increased challenges for sure. And it was a documentary that I saw that came out in 2015 called Code Debugging the Myth, that explained why there was a pipeline issue for women, particularly in technology, and really kind of explained and shared the experience that I had in college that is very similar to many other women and within college as well. And that's, that pipeline really kind of starts to, you see it diminish within that college experience. But to then go back and try to build that career from scratch, and having to learn a lot of the technical pieces on my own or through just different classes, but nonetheless, in any way, still just within myself or within a small group of people, there are times where it did feel extremely lonely. And so I do think that there are, I definitely can say that I felt increased challenges, and I know that many of my peers feel the same.
Okay, great, thank you.
Can I add something to this conversation, John? I think this was about probably 18 years ago, where I used to do this consulting of training people for this data warehousing. And there was one lady who came in with 3 kids, and she wanted to get into this technology field. Then when I was encouraging her, the management was saying, I don't think we can train them and then get them placed. I said, why? Then they said, they do have some limited challenges here and there. I said, let us make an attempt. You won't believe, after she got trained, when she went for an interview, the interview was for the developer position. And then the manager said, you're so good that I would like to give you the offer as an architect. I said, wow. That is when I was realizing the talent of these individuals. It is not about the gender specific, but it's about the passion with which how they want to proceed. It's all your, perseverance. Since then, they started an exclusive, batches for women also. That was one of the satisfying factors.
Oh, great, interesting. Thanks for sharing. So women make up about half of the workforce, but only represent about 20% of the cybersecurity workforce. What would you say are some of the most common obstacles, roadblocks, and challenges that women face that are preventing them from entering this field?
Yeah, I think a number of things. I think one, this is a field that not a lot of people knew of years ago. And so now I think it is just an incredibly hot field. So part of the reason that I wanted to participate in this conversation today is to make sure that people know about this very rewarding career opportunity. Another reason why is I think that we were very limited in the way that we were considering members of the workforce in cybersecurity. Used to be that you needed to be a very technical firewall engineer, network engineer, developer to make a career in cybersecurity. And now I think that what we really need is broad diversity in our field. We need all backgrounds, we need all industries, we need all perspectives to join this fight that we have in cybersecurity. And so I think that that change in perspective, that I will admit not all hiring managers are there within cybersecurity, but by changing that mindset, I think that we open up a wealth of opportunities. I think that not having those opportunities, not having those stepping stones into a career of cybersecurity has been a big detriment for this particular industry. So I'm encouraged to see it increase. I know back in 2017, there were studies that said that we were as low as 11% to 17%. That's certainly not acceptable. 20%, nothing to brag about. Let's make it another 10% in a couple of years.
Great, thank you, Sydney. Prasad, Jessica?
Yeah, I think that it's also a willingness to look at how we can promote from within. How can we do cross-training within organizations? I shared a bit about my experience, and that we know that the pipeline with women just has less numbers in it, simply because of what happens in college campuses and what we've seen. And there are metrics that show this. And so how can we better think about within organizations how to take someone that seems to have the aptitude and very much the passion to want to do a role, and really focus on helping to cross-train or bring someone in and give them an opportunity. And I think that's going to be the willingness to be able to do that on the part of leaders. I think is going to be really important, and even more so. And where I've seen this to be successful, I find it does work very, very well. And not only does it, one, create a community and a place where that employee wants to be, but the organization is better to create a pipeline of talent that they can then go to in the case they need someone, or in case someone were to leave the organization. And so it really works out in both ways.
Prasad, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, this is generally, for me, this is an inhibition many people have. It is not just with women, but generally when somebody is talking about this technology, there is a fear factor getting built in. If you ask me, we are living in the IT world. Everybody, directly or indirectly, we are all dealing with so-called apps and then internet. Everybody is around. But that hesitation, if they can overcome, trust me, they do have a natural DNA of doing a better job. I mean, I am not being biased here, but then that is a passion with which, if they can come forward, I am sure there could be, better winners. And then if they can come forward, we will be happy to assist them. It is that inhibition, if it can be overcome, we are here to assist them.
All right, thank you. Sydney, as the Chief Information Security Officer at Bristol Meyers Squibb, you oversee a very large security team. Can you share with us some of the steps that you've taken to retain and promote diversity within your organization?
Yes, absolutely. I think, first of all, it's something that I think is very critical. What we're dealing with in cybersecurity is an incredibly diverse topic. And so, as I said, we need people of all different backgrounds. To me, it really starts with figuring out what are we needing within the organization. I think, and I'm seeing some of the comments here, no true entry level, looking at job descriptions, you could look down and see a huge laundry list of things that I really wonder if there's a human out there that meets all of those requirements, especially when you see 10 years of experience on a particular technology that's been around for a year. So for me, it's not really looking for who's the person who has already done the thing and can come and help us do the thing. It's who's the person who has shown great growth mindset, that comes from tangential fields, who has a great hunger and desire to learn. That's what I'm really looking for. And so when I look at our team, it's about what pieces are we missing? It's diversity that certainly you can see, and gender plays a big role into that. It's also, and I'm a really big fan of something called the Diversity Iceberg, and you can look it up on Google. It'll come up. You'll see a myriad of different pictures, and it's the concept that there are a lot of things that we can tell diversity with our eyes, but many, many things that sit below the water surface that you're not able to see. And I want to look at the diversity of our team in all of those different areas. So it's industry, it's experience, and it's more. Because of the statistics that you mentioned at the top of our time here, I think that we have an obligation to train more people within this industry. So for me, there are roles that when I look at them, I say, this is a role that doesn't need cybersecurity experience, and it's a role that doesn't need pharma-specific experience. And then we create the job requisition. What type of qualities are we looking for in an individual? What are maybe some tangential fields that they've played in that would be very helpful here? And so that's really how I've taken the steps in our department, is making sure that we're designing jobs with that thought in mind, with the diverse workforce that we're trying to attract, and then making sure that we have the right culture within our department. We can have great efforts to recruit and to source talent, but if we don't have the right programs in place to really support individuals, to make sure that we have a culture of inclusion and belonging, of hearing all ideas and points of view, then we're not going to be successful for very long. So I think we really do need to tackle it from both perspectives.
All right, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. It sounds like it's a very comprehensive program. Jessica and Prasad, are you seeing similar initiatives from the clients that you're working with?
Yeah, I am. There are two main things that I would say. One is education. I think that there are so many different ways that people are learning and developing cybersecurity skills nowadays. And so I think that, having for leaders to have a broad perspective about how people are learning, also understanding that everyone doesn't learn the same way. So it kind of even goes back to the standardized test. If we're using kind of a certain measure for success, then that kind of you can leave out such a large group of people. And so it's, if people can demonstrate that they have a certain knowledge, clearly through some training, through various courses, if they clearly have a passion for something and are demonstrating that, then that I'm seeing, and in some cases, is entering the door, but that definitely is not happening enough. And then I would say the other thing is really continuing to create a space where people want to be. There are still a lot of teams where it's all men. I literally had a head of cybersecurity at one of the largest insurance companies in the world say to me that he just wanted a woman on the team because he wanted someone who would think differently than the rest of the team. And so I think also, though, part of that is creating the space where that person can feel like they feel comfortable and that they can belong and that they could fit into. And it's a place that they're going to want to go to work every day, or a team that they want to be a part of every day. And so that is different for different people. So I think having this understanding of what does really being intentional around what does cultural diversity really look like? And what does that really mean in practice, as well as having a clear understanding of different cognitive biases in the workplace, I think is really, really important for leaders.
Yeah, and I think we have seen very similar experiences where some of the financial clients, they are actually approaching us, and they are also trying to figure out what are the ways by which they can bridge the gap between the freshers who are all walking out of their colleges to be matching with the industry norm. So that is something which is still a gap, and then they are willing to extend certain exclusive training programs and then adding them into these courses so that they would be made as ready to work with these clients. So there were financial institutions and then insurance companies, they're all willing to. And then, few of the real estate companies are also approaching us saying that they are willing to sponsor for certain programs. If at all we can initiate, they would be hiring in at least about 30% of those trained people. So there are very exciting ways by which even corporations are coming forward. And also we have experienced about a few of the companies coming to us stating that, can we give you few of our business resources whom you can empower them to get into this technology? We said, yes, why not? So they are all still at the fluid level because a lot of people are, hesitant to take such initiatives. But once that inhibition is overcome, as I said before, definitely we will see a lot more numbers coming in.
Yeah, I think we all agree that there's a lot of power in diversity. How do we get that message out there? How do we get the message across to organizations that may not necessarily, have the same mindset as we do, that there's value in having a diverse team?
I think that now in today's world, particularly with the world that we live in, and that is in the focus on even this topic, particularly over the past 5 years, I think understanding diversity is a leadership competency. Mm-hmm. So as organizations are evaluating their leaders and evaluating their performance throughout the year, having a clear understanding through the talent management process, each leader's competency and understanding of diversity, I think, is going to be more important than ever. And it's not even just about increasing more diversity on a particular team, but it's about being able to think about, from a strategic viewpoint within an organization, what is really going to be successful in the future for an organization. And there's no doubt that it's understanding and having diverse teams, but also understanding the diverse of clients or customers that you have with, that you serve. And so I think that continues to be something that's really important. And I would also say that continuing to think about this as well, not just from the head and thinking about it intellectually, but it also is something that I think very much is something that we have to feel. It's really about having empathy and understanding what is it like to be someone else, and understand what it feels like to not feel included. What does it feel like to be excluded, or to not be considered or thought of in a particular situation, or to not have received that promotion because of something, whatever that is. But having that clear understanding and really continuing to think about how can we better as leaders also lead and feel with our hearts, I think is going to be also very important in the future as well.
Yeah, Jessica, I love what you said about the leadership competency. I think that is just so spot on. And John, I almost am sad that you had to ask this question. You know, I would have hoped that we would be beyond this, that that after all of the focus that we've seen on diversity and inclusion over the past 5 years, that people would get the why, and we would now be talking more about the how. And yet we still are talking about the why. I do hope that the cultural awakening that it feels like we're having in the US is hopefully going to add to tremendous progress in a very short time. I'm quite hopeful of that. I see many leaders across the country standing up and being very vocal in a topic that maybe felt a bit too political before. So I'm thrilled to see the openness there, and more than anything, the willingness that we get to have right now on really uncomfortable conversations, because I think a lot of times this is a topic that people agree in their hearts is important, but they are afraid to talk about it. I remember being involved in a women in technology organization, and it was probably about 5 years ago now, and there was a man who joined our efforts. And there is no minority population that is going to make progress without the help of the majority. That's just a fact. So within women in technology, within women in cyber, we have to have men who are there to help us tackle the problem. And he joined in these conversations. It was a room full of women. He was the only man. And he said, "Oh my gosh, this is how you feel." So it was an aha for him that he was then able to take in all of his conversations that he had, and then really pay attention when he was in a room and we didn't have the right numbers to be comfortable in speaking up. There are all sorts of studies that say that you have to have that safety in numbers before you feel comfortable enough to share your voice. But he also shared that he was nervous to be on a platform like this, speaking at a panel, lending his voice to maybe an article on this, because what if I use the wrong terms? What if I say the wrong thing? So I'm very hopeful with the conversation that we're having now. I also spent my morning with a research organization that I'm a partner with, and it was a group of about 40 chief information security officers. My particular job title is one where I'm definitely the minority. And we had a conversation looking at research that was just done on diversity in cybersecurity. Spent a lot of time on women in cybersecurity, but also underrepresented ethnic groups. And I did hear a great understanding of the challenge that we're trying to address. I think the biggest opportunity that we still have is to make sure that people know that that is diversity of experience as well, not just the tech person who has spent the last 15 years in technology and knows how to program in every language available, but really the diversity of experiences, everything from marketing, because cybersecurity is a huge human element. We know so many breaches are contributed by social engineering, that human element's really important too. So let's bring in those experiences from marketing, from HR, from communications, and from other risk management disciplines.
Well, excellent.
Cindy, I was just going to say one thing. Cindy, I appreciate you saying the piece about how this gentleman was in a room full of women and he was able to understand what that felt like, because I think that different perspectives and different situations, we can all say that we all have privilege, right? I remember when I was at the SheTek Conference, and from that perspective, being a cisgender woman, so a woman who's straight, identifies that way and dates men, being at the SheTek Conference, I could feel my privilege. And it was a wonderful experience to be there, to be able to have that experience too, and to feel the only in that situation as well. But it also helps me to also be more mindful of what it is that I also say and how we think about how we can better promote and help bring people into awareness around diversity and inclusion, because it's sometimes all it means or all it takes is for you to really have that feeling and that understanding that someone else has when they're in a room with you or with another group of people, whether you can see that or not. And so just having that understanding, again, empathy is, I just think, so important for leaders in this area.
Great points. And one thing that that you had touched on, Sydney, was around I guess the male perspective. So I'd like to direct this question to Prasad. Prasad, as a male in this industry, what do you think are our responsibilities to help nurture and mentor women that may be interested in pursuing a career?
Oh, there are a lot of things. And if you ask me, I have been experiencing managing with my business partner. I know in the beginning, when we started up this company, at least many of my associates were saying, why do you want to get associated with a woman? Why wouldn't you start off on your own? Then I was realizing that they do not have patience. Like if at all we can have some patience to understand about their strength, because we don't want to brag about, why is our company being so much successful? Because we know how to complement each other. And without each other's support, I don't think we can even move forward to that next level. So that forward thinking is definitely required for every individual. And then keeping the gender perspective aside, every individual should start developing more listening skills. Because what I noticed at a few of the meetings, whenever women comes forward with some initiative, then men likes to take the compliment of it by saying that, yeah, I was actually suggesting the same thing. So that kind of things have to calm down. And then also we need to develop more trust, because as Sydney was saying that, that diversity is required because all men could be probably thinking alike. But if you're going to bring in women's perspective, which I was mentioning in the beginning about the DNA, they do have a natural DNA to be more responsible. And as men, we like to be more independent. So what you like, if you can keep it aside and if you can work together, that forward thinking, if it can be more, reinstated, I should say, then the success is going to come in. So that willingness to keep coaching or then keep listening, even though you may be good at it, there is no harm in getting a feedback. That is why in our organization, we have that 360 degrees feedback, where we don't want to take the decision just based on somebody's opinion. No, bring it out. So by we developing such skills, and as you know, John, our 90% of our leadership is all women, and we respect that. And then we are so happy to be associated with every individual. So those are my.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Prasad again and Jessica, both of you lead consulting firms that provide cybersecurity resources and services. Your client know about what they're looking for and resources.
If I can speak from the technology perspective, there have been a lot of clients who have been insisting, saying that we cannot put it on paper, but then can you make it more women profiles coming in? Because everybody is talking about this diversity now. And whenever we are going to submit an application, they still look forward for the applications to be more diverse, because they do not want to dominate any application or any of these groups just with one gender specific. So a lot of initiatives are coming from the client these days. And also we as a company, we do promote and then we do encourage women to get involved. And I think that is the outcome in the form of SheTek. That's where I should say.
No, that's great. And I think, Prasad, you would actually have, I think you're definitely, I think, an expert here. And I would just say from my experience, what I'm seeing is it still sometimes a bit challenging, I have to say. I'm seeing that there are open positions. I'm seeing that there are individuals that feel like they can do that role and they feel comfortable applying, whether it's a man or a woman. But they're not getting it, and this is through having contacts at the organization, whether it's a mid-sized organization or a top 100 organization in the world. And I'm seeing this for experienced cybersecurity leaders, but I'm also seeing this with new leaders as well. And so I think that what organizations are continuing to to look for are those individuals that are experienced. I think that they're looking for individuals that have a certain level, obviously, of cultural intelligence that fits well into their organization. They're looking for someone who could bring something different to the team. But though I think I'm finding that there are people that are getting hired, I still continue to somewhat be discouraged by the number of people that I know aren't getting hired right now. And so I think that there are a lot of, questions that I personally have on this. And I also think that, there's some leeway that companies and organizations can have on some of the job descriptions that they have and what they expect out of someone coming into, even with someone with 20 years of experience coming in and applying for a particular role that they have within their organization. And so it's surprising, and I think this has been much more clear to me over the past couple of months. And obviously we're in a COVID environment, but I also think that with the number of jobs that are needed and the positions that are open, with so many wonderful cybersecurity professionals, I think that that many of them could very easily and find a role. So I think it's an interesting time, and I think that as organizations continue to think about what qualities they're really looking for, I just think it's going to be extremely important that actually fully translates into job descriptions, and then how they, of course, follow through with the selection process for interviewing.
Interesting. And Sydney, from a client perspective, can you share what some of your staffing challenges might be?
Yeah, I do have to say that it is so interesting to me to hear the number of open positions and unfilled positions across the world, because we've been doing a lot of hiring this year, and I actually haven't seen that decrease in applicants that I thought we would see. In fact, I've seen a huge increase. I think it could well be the times that we're living in and the challenges and the unemployment rates that we're seeing with the COVID-19 crisis. So that could certainly be playing into it, but I'm finding that most of our roles are having hundreds of applicants, and the challenging part, I think, is really on the talent team, the recruiting team, because there are so many applications that come through. And so I know we have job seekers who are with us today. So a couple of tips that I would say is, when you're looking at the job and you're applying for it, make sure that your resume really speaks to that job. And it's not about ticking and tying everything on the requirements list, because hopefully the person has a really good growth mindset who's reading it. But try to connect what you've done, especially if you're looking to get into a new industry or you're looking to get into a new domain like cybersecurity. Help the reader understand why you would be a great fit for that particular role. I am seeing a lot on the candidate front. I think that we still are looking for more diversity in our candidates. It's not surprising that we still are not seeing as many women apply to roles as we would like. And there were some interesting studies that were shown on LinkedIn about the impacts of women in hiring in the COVID-19 crisis. I think many of us are taking on the child raising challenges and not having schools, not having camps. Maybe if we're already employed, feeling like this isn't the best time to make a career change when you're trying to juggle those, especially if your employer is flexible in the way that you're supporting your family right now. So as a parent of 3 children who homeschooled last year and who will probably be homeschooling virtual learning in the future, I definitely feel for that challenge that we're having. We also know that women aren't as likely to be active in the job seeker realm, that even if we're unhappy in our jobs, we're kind of waiting to come and be tapped on the shoulder versus going out there and looking. So the jobs are there. I'm seeing a ton of them. Be active on LinkedIn, update your profile, connect with people. When you're connecting with somebody in this industry and you don't know them, say why you want to connect with them. You want to learn more about cybersecurity. You want to follow them. I tell you, most of the LinkedIn requests that I get are somebody who wants to sell me a particular tool. So I would be very honored to get the type of request that's, I want to know more about cybersecurity and breaking into the field, versus I want to sell you a tool.
Interesting. I mean, can we talk a little bit about maybe some of the career paths and the roles that someone who might be interested in pursuing a career should begin to focus on? Are there any specific roles that you'd recommend that someone begin to explore?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what your background is. So, for instance, if you're a veteran, then there are great connections into the Security Operations Center, the threat intelligence type of work, the forensics and investigations. If you are HR, marketing, then I think looking at the people angles, there's a ton of training and education and awareness that needs to be done. If you were a network engineer, then you can do network security. So I think that what's interesting about cybersecurity, it's kind of a microcosm of the whole company. You need somebody to do metrics, to do governance. We're reporting to boards on a very regular basis. And so how do you communicate your story? The story that we want to tell our boards and our management isn't the how many vulnerabilities do we have, and let me give you a bunch of numbers that mean nothing to our board. We really want to tell the story of what are we seeing out there in the industry when it comes to threats? How are we arming and educating our people? How are we investing in maturing our capabilities? And that's a very, very different skill set. And I personally think that that's where we're really the most at a loss for talent. Of course, cloud computing, super hot right now. There's so many courses that you can take virtually that would be a great place to start for you to, even if you won't be a cloud security practitioner from a hands-on point of view, learning about it, understanding the way we do security in the cloud is actually quite different than the way you would do it in an on-premise environment. So having that education would be very helpful as well. I want to comment on one thing there. Sorry, one more thing as I'm seeing Susan's comment in the corner here. You know, each of these jobs is going to have different demands. And I think you can absolutely carve out a role in IT or in cybersecurity that's not demanding from a 24/7 perspective. There are roles that are absolutely demanding from a 24/7 perspective. I will tell you, as the CISO, I don't usually feel like I'm off. It is something that's an always on kind of job, and it's why there's so much turnover in my particular job. But there are lots of roles on our team that do get to log off at the end of the day. I met with a woman on my team yesterday who shared with me, I didn't realize this, but it makes perfect sense. She doesn't even have email on her phone. She said, when I'm done, I disconnect. Somebody will call me if they need me. That's great. Those jobs exist in our field. Thanks.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I would, I agree with everything Cindy said. If I were to add anything else, it's just really look at the transferable skills that are already existing that you have. I've talked to young individuals that are starting out their career working at a service desk within an organization and working there for a couple of years and have been able to transition into a cybersecurity role, which is what they've always wanted. And part of the way that they did that was by identifying it, by letting their manager know, by seeking out opportunities internally within the organization. If they knew what type of role that they wanted to do, and if they knew that there was maybe any additional training or certification associated with it, then they would go ahead and they would pursue that. And so part of that is, part of it is kind of knowing part of what it is that you want to do. The other part of it is just being flexible and being willing to learn along the way. I think that the most important thing is whatever it is that you're passionate about it. I had it in the past couple of months. I've had 2 people that work in marketing and sales come to me and said that they wanted to work in marketing and sales in cybersecurity. So that's great. We all need marketing and sales people in cybersecurity. So, those are transferable skill sets. And so I think, the key thing is that there are so many different roles outside of even just within the core team of cybersecurity that people can literally transfer into if they are willing to just, continue to learn more about cybersecurity, but also really connect the dots on how they can add value here. And of course, I think it's about passion. Another just quick example that I'll share is there's a woman I recently spoke to who works in banking, and she's a mid-level senior leader in banking and has done that for 20 years. And now she's thinking about cybersecurity. I think that there can be a number of really interesting roles that she could probably take on, whether it's compliance or legal, or depending on what her background is and how she wants to do that within the organization and what her career path has been. And so I think whether you're just starting out or whether you are or you've had years of experience, there's a career path into cybersecurity for you.
Some great
If I
advice.
can, yeah, if I can add something more to this, from the staffing industry perspective, the cybersecurity became an inclusive of whatever job you do. So having a training and then gaining a certification will only be profitable for you in the long run if you can realize that whatever work we do, whether it is HR, marketing, and then finance, whatever department you're in, it requires for you to be secure and it requires for you to be protecting the information. So for that aspect, there are certain fundamental courses available, fortunately, I think for the past about 3 years, wherein a lot of training facilities are available, whether it is, UDMY or cybrary.it. Lot of such, training awareness has become so essential. So whatever job we do, so this is a general suggestion for anybody who is entering into their career, or who are into the intermediate or into the senior level. Everybody requires an additional subject to understand that we got to keep the information secure. So that DNA has to be there, like what Jessica and then Sydney has been speaking about. Whatever job we do today, tomorrow if you want to retain the job, you need to make that protected. So there are lots of opportunities, and I have seen ourselves, like we managing about 200 people. They're all coming forward to assist whoever wants to get into this industry. We are ready to train them. So whichever area of the specialization you are involved in right now, there is always some kind of a flavor of cybersecurity which is required for you.
Well, thanks for bringing up the point on certification, because that's one of the things that I wanted to ask as well. I mean, there are a lot of certifications out there that are available. For someone who's considering pursuing a career in cybersecurity, are there any specific certifications that you'd recommend that they begin to prepare for?
I feel like I receive this question a lot, and the first thing that I say is, well, what are you passionate about? I think the most important thing is for the person to have a clear understanding of what it is that they want to do, and also what it is that they want to learn. I'm not necessarily a proponent of just packing up certifications to have certifications. I think that whatever it is that you are most important, that you want, whatever skill set that you want to do within your career, whatever it is that you want to learn, I think that's most important for you. And that's going to be so different for so many people. I think, as we just kind of stated with the last question, there's so many different ways that you can work in cybersecurity. So I think it's so hard to just kind of say, well, if you want to work in cybersecurity, get this certification or get this certification. Clearly, if you're on the technical side and you're focusing on applications, being a part of, an organization like OWASP could be great, and then focusing on more technical applications or tech certifications, I think, can be great. I'm a member of OWASP and very much enjoy being a part of that organization. But that's not the case for everyone. And so I think the key, and I also would say every cybersecurity organization is also doesn't really curate every single skill set within cybersecurity. And so I would just really say, what is it that you're passionate about, and those topics that you're passionate about, what certifications come up in that particular area that you think are important for you to know, or particularly the knowledge that would come out of that, taking that certification would be most important for you to know.
All right, Sydney, Prasad, any recommendations, suggestions around certifications?
I'm just waiting for Sydney to answer so that I would like to,
Actually, I have nothing to add on what Jessica said. I think it was a perfect answer.
Well,
Okay. Yeah. If I have to add on this, according to our perspective, as long as your fundamentals are clear to know where you would like to go, these are all different controls what we speak about in the cybersecurity fundamentals. So you got to read out all the fundamentals first, and then your passion should be belonging to either a networking industry or a software development or about, financial audit, whatever perspective you are very, good with. So knowledge is essential. So I think having that knowledge and then gaining the certification over that specific subject could be attaining a better value add for you to get the job. Because if I'm going to get trained in XYZ, and if I'm getting to, apply for a job which is not relevant to that, then everything has gone into the drain. So for me, the fundamentals have to be very clear to where you want to be and where your strengths are.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you. I think we're just about out of time. I'd like to thank our panelists for your time. I think this was a very good discussion. And just a reminder, Sydney will be hosting a breakout session this afternoon where we can get into a lot more detail around how do you prepare for your career in cybersecurity, what specific training, certifications you may consider pursuing. So this pretty much wraps up our panel discussion. I'd like to hand it back over to Meg. Meg's been compiling all the questions that have been coming in, and we'll spend some time going over. So
Yep.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much again for John, Prasad, Jessica, and Sydney for joining us today. We've gotten a lot of questions from our audience. That's actually, it's on 2 pages too. So everybody's very excited. We've answered a few of the questions kind of during the panel, but one of them that really jumped out at me that I wanted to make sure that this person got an answer. They said that they face similar challenges as a woman in this field, as many of us have been talking about today. And they were curious about what maybe would be a great way to reach out to a mentor. Do you guys have any advice for somebody that might be looking for a mentor in this field, where maybe they could get started, find a person? We know that the SheTek community is an excellent place to find a mentor. We'll touch on that in a few minutes. But do you guys have any other advice for maybe what somebody could do to find the right person? John, do you want to start? Have you ever found a mentor in cybersecurity?
I think finding a mentor is very important. I think not only mentoring someone, but also I think it's important from both perspectives. I think it's important to have a mentor, but to also to mentor other individuals. But I think Sydney had touched on this earlier around LinkedIn. I think that's a great tool. There are a lot of women professionals in cybersecurity that would love nothing more than be able to provide you with some guidance, direction. There are, at last count, I counted about 10 different cybersecurity women organizations, and I'm sure Jessica and Sydney can probably name many more. But there are a lot of organizations out there that are focused on helping women who are interested in technology in general, but also specifically in cybersecurity. So I would use the social media platforms that are out there, connect with thought leaders in the industry, and ask them if they'd be interested in mentoring or providing some guidance or direction.
Sydney or Jessica, do one of you want to share?
Yeah, I can add a few organizations. So as John said, I think that's a great way to start. A lot of those organizations actually have mentoring programs already within them. Executive Women's Forum has been around for many, many years in this space, and they have a formal mentoring program that runs twice a year. You can look them up. It's ewf-usa.com. We also have Women in Cybersecurity, WISIS. You have Women in Technology International, WITI. You have Women in Technology, which I think is WIT.org. So you have a lot of these organizations. In fact, just go and Google Women in Cybersecurity, and you're going to see a lot of them. And I think almost all of those that I mentioned have some sort of mentoring program. And I think when you're going into it, what's really important is to think about what you want to get out of it. So similar to the question on what certification for mentoring, what do you want to get out of it? So I'm a huge fan of spot mentoring. And for spot mentoring, how I think about that is I want to know more about XYZ, and I want to reach out to somebody who knows a lot about XYZ, and I want to spend 1 to 2 sessions kind of talking through it with them. And then that's a low commitment time from the person that you're asking. I think it also answers your questions that you have and allows you to really leverage a variety of different mentors in this space. So don't always think about mentoring being this long-term relationship that sometimes I'll say you don't quite know when you're ready to move on from that relationship, and then they just become a friend and a sometime point advisor that you can be able to reach out to, but really think about what do you want to get from it.
Yep, I agree 100% with that. I would say if there's anything that I would add is just another organization is Women in Security and Privacy. They also have a great mentoring program, and I'm personally involved with that organization, WISIS, Women in Cybersecurity, and also OWASP. There's a committee there called Women in Application Security, which is also a wonderful way to connect to not only other women within the more technical realm of cybersecurity, but also an opportunity to connect with mentors.
It's so amazing. There are so many different focused groups for so many different cybersecurity roles, application security, security and privacy. It's really interesting how that all breaks down. We had a really fascinating question from one of our attendees, and I think this is so interesting because we recently had an episode of The Outlet where we talked about artificial intelligence. One of our attendees asked, how is artificial intelligence progressing in the cybersecurity world? Like anomaly detection. What advancements are going to happen in this field? Are any of you experienced in artificial intelligence and how it pertains to cybersecurity? I'll take a volunteer because I don't know which one of you is best fit to answer this one.
Well, I mean, I think AI holds the promise there of changing, really life just in general, right? I mean, there are a lot of things that are done in cybersecurity today that AI or machine learning can automate and do much more accurately and much quicker. And for anyone of the other panelists who may be actively involved in using any tools that use AI or claim to use AI and machine learning, I think it really holds a promise to speed the detection and response, as well as providing more accurate information to the decision makers in the organization.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would say as well, John. I, like Cindy, I get a lot of email or in LinkedIn invites from people that want to share with me their product. And so every once in a while I will sit in because I'm just curious to know about their product. And it is interesting to see how AI is being used, continuing to be evolved and to be used within cybersecurity. And I think one of the best ways it does continue to be able to add value is really around helping leaders within an organization better understand their environment. So particularly being able to detect any type of anomalies that are there, and also the ability for the leaders within the cybersecurity environment to be able to kind of create their own searches to be able to better understand their environment, which I think is important. And I think it'll be interesting to also continue to see how this evolves over the next decade. I think that, I think the world has just changed so much, right, in the past few months. And so maybe 5 years from now, we knew that we would all be remote working the way we are now, but to have that happened, this year has probably been a bit of a surprise for all of us. I think that we will see continued advances in technology, whether it's quantum computing or other things that I think will also kind of force us to be able to continue to be, as an industry, very innovative in how we resolve certain concerns that we see in the future. And I think it'll be interesting to see that. I think what will also be interesting is if we see more of that AI-enabled malware. How can we then better use AI to be able to stop even more AI-enabled malware? So.
Great. And then we do have time for, it looks like, just one more. And I'm going to put this probably to Sydney first because I think this lines up.
Meg just froze. Hey, Meg, you just froze for me. Would you mind starting that question over again?
It's giving me a message.
You're back with us now, so I can see you just fine. I just missed the question.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad I'm back. All right, so we had one attendee ask us if programming and math knowledge helps with the cybersecurity career. And I know I was just reading last night about quantum computing and cybersecurity, so I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I think that there's not a background that you couldn't lend itself. So absolutely, math and science, great background. I think they're probably more the programming, the engineering type of roles that we have. That's the immediate linkage that I see. But frankly, you could take that and you could apply it to a number of different things. I know one of the challenges that our community is trying to solve for is how do you really get meaningful risk metrics? How do you tell that story? Years ago, the way we used to do it was by counting vulnerabilities. You all would be just staggering to see the number of vulnerabilities. It's not particularly helpful. It gives you no context. So understanding the mathematics behind it, really understanding how you present the story, you could take it and move it somewhere there, which is maybe a little less hands-on technical, or you could go the technical route and go into the programming field. So yes, I think that no matter what your background is, if you have a passion for cybersecurity, there's a way that you could take that passion and lend it to the program.
Great. Did anybody else want to add anything onto that, Prasad or Jessica or John?
I just wanted to add few points about the AI and then about the maths background, like how Sydney was stressing on the aspect about your passion is the most important aspect of the cybersecurity. You got to have the DNA in you, whether it is maths or like your, analytical skills. You should be in a position to have that combined with those analytical skills. And then once you have that knowledge of how to analyze things, I think the rest of the pieces are all to do about, how do you present and then, how do you communicate and then how do you address any of those things. And one point about the AI aspect coming in, and then one interesting aspect which I would like to add over here is about the 5G. 5G is coming in. So when 5G is coming in, which means opportunities are a lot more for the cybersecurity, because it's going to be opening up a lot more avenues to protect your information, because it's going to be across any devices. So the vulnerability aspect is a lot more. So from the staffing company perspective, I see humongous number of opportunities coming in for us to train and then place at the client places. If anybody would like to add anything on the 5G, please.
I think it's been said, and I agree with what's been said. So.
All right, so it looks like we're just about hitting at about 12:30. So we're going to have a short 15-minute break now because it's 12:30. I really want to thank you all again so much for being a part of this great event. It was really fascinating to hear so much about cybersecurity from the people that really are the experts in the field. I want to welcome everybody to know that there is a Continue the Conversation breakout session happening soon. So here's our little sign about our break. So if you haven't already selected your breakout session, send me a quick message, either myself or Joanne over in the chat box in the Zoom chat. Let us know which breakout session you'd like to be a part of. Again, we have Continue the Conversation, everything that you need to know about a cybersecurity career, your chance to really kind of get some back and forth about some of these cybersecurity topics that we've talked about today. We also have Embrace Your Feminine Traits to Elevate Cybersecurity with author Fabian Jacquette. We're going to talk a lot in there about what benefits each gender brings to a cybersecurity career and how you can take advantage of those natural traits within yourself to elevate a career. Finally, we also have Yoga to Stretch Your Body and Mind with Linda Colon. She'll be able to help us out, learn how to stretch our minds and get us ready to think a little bit more through some physical activity. Thank you guys all very much. We're going to come back here and regroup in about 15 minutes at 12:45, okay? Thanks, everyone. I'm going to come off cam and go on mute. So join us, come back here, and then we'll move all out into breakout sessions, okay? See you soon.